Hey, what's up? Today is Thursday, the 17th of April, 2025. I have just completed my 41st flight and my very first flight as a private pilot. Well, let's talk about it more on the drive home. So it's been a long time coming. I haven't flown in over a month since now. Actually, in a month and I believe a week, it would have been 5 or 6 weeks since my check ride. Of course, the last time I flew, but praise be to God, I was able to get a flight in today, and it was not on the 152 that I've been training on, but instead on the Cessna 172, my first ever flight on the 172, and it was a lot. It didn't exactly go as I expected, but you always start from zero. There's always a match that starts at nil all, and whenever you get into a new aircraft, you start your logbook from zero in that type. So it's great to be able to start a new journey, as well as now I get to hone in my skills even further by challenging myself to adapt to a new aircraft, which of course no two aircraft are the same. So even if I was flying a second 152, I would be more than comfortable with doing a familiarization flight with it, regardless that the fact that they're two 152s, but you never know. And I feel that's how I'm going to just play out the rest of my aviation career. Whenever I get a chance to fly with a new aircraft, I'm going to always want to fly with an instructor first, at least until I build up a good amount of experience. I have been thinking about doing this flight for a while now, because not only has it been over a month since I last flew overall, but with this 172 specifically, I know that I need to start learning how to fly it, and I need to start learning from now, because it is much more available than our 152, because the 152 is what most of the students are training on, and then its availability is booked out like crazy. You can look on a schedule and see that it's been booked for maybe a month, 2 months already in advance, and you as an already trained pilot now, you have to just find wherever slot is possible for you to then do your time building. So that's reason number one. But even besides time building, I also want to get used to it, because it is the aircraft with 4 seats, and while the 152 does have 2 seats, my family consists of more than 2 persons. So if there's a possibility for me to take all 3 other members of my family with me on a flight, in just one flight, then I want to take that chance. But of course, I want to make sure I'm as competent and proficient as possible on that aircraft type before I take any passengers, especially my family. So while I would have no problem taking one of them in maybe a couple more solo flights on the 152, I need to get to the point where I'm comfortable taking myself solo in the 172. So there's a lot of training to do beforehand. The work never stops, and that's exactly why, or should I say, this is exactly why I phrased my check ride as the end of one race and going on to another race, because you're just always running. It doesn't stop. As a pilot, you don't stop learning, and that's the fun part. In life in general, you shouldn't stop learning, but especially in flying, you can't afford to stop learning. You have to always be finding something else to be working on, something new to challenge yourself with. Maybe that's a tailwheel endorsement for you, or maybe a high performance endorsement. Whichever it be, it always is good to seek out a new challenge, because that is what forces us to change and improve. If we don't do that, we're going to become stagnant, and then that's going to lead to complacency, and that is one of the worst things ever when it comes to aviation. Now, in this familiarization flight specifically, I thought it would be fitting to start off with circuits so I can understand what the aircraft is like taking off and landing. This specific 172 is a 172 mic or a 172M. Now, that essentially just means it's an older model, but these older models specifically have a few quirks about them. One of them being that the airspeed indicator is actually in miles per hour and not knots, which is kind of funny how the 152, which you consider the smaller or older plane in overall, already has its airspeed indicator in knots, but not this 172. And it also just goes to show how old aircraft can be, and they're just still operating just fine. It's so beautiful, because it would be awesome if we could have cars from the 1970s or 1960s still operating just as fine as we have so much aircraft doing. The way the flaps operate is different as well. It's not like the 152 or newer 172 models, where you just have one flap lever and you carry it down to the position that you want. In the 172 mic, you have a flap lever that is either neutral, up or down. So you have to press down and then put it back to neutral when you want the flaps to stop lowering, and then press up and then put it back to neutral when you want the flaps to stop raising. So that's something new I had to get used to. But I was looking forward to it, and it is a feature I was aware of because on so much YouTube videos, for example, I think Aviation 101, his flaps level is like that. And I know for sure M0A's, I believe it's M0A. If it's not M0A, then it's Fly 8 Mike Alpha. One of their 172s also operates like that, where you have to hold the flap lever down and then release it. So it's something I was aware of. But the biggest thing that shocked me today was just how sluggish the controls were. Maybe it's because it's the heavier aircraft. I might also just be too used to the 152 because everything just feels so nimble in the 152. But in this 172, I felt that I had to be working hard. I had to be really putting some elbow grease to move those controls. So that was really fun, getting to feel actual fatigue in my arms from just manipulating the yoke so much. And on top of everything, it was also a crosswind day, which I have been wanting to work on my crosswind landings. I've been practicing them in the simulator for a while, just out of curiosity in perfecting my technique, or getting it as close to perfect as possible. And getting the chance to do it in real life, on top of flying the 172 for the first time, was just killing two birds with one stone. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to record today's flight. Hopefully in the future, I'll be able to do so. But just for this flight, unfortunately, it wasn't possible. I'm really hoping I'll be able to do it in the future though, because the visibility is just wow. The windshield is slightly taller in the 172 compared to the 152. It's like you gain an extra 2 pairs of eyes at the top of your head. Because I remember during the first pattern when my instructor was demonstrating everything to me, I was just sat back like a passenger and I was just looking outside and I'm like, wow. And I'm just looking outside and I'm thinking to myself, wow. The views is are just great. It's genuinely amazing. So I hope that one day I'll be able to show you just what I was able to see in the seat. I also noticed that this specific 172 mic has its quirks. Every plane has its quirks, but there's a lot of things that it does abnormally compared to what you would have expected it to be doing. But that's not a problem. It's just that, hey, I need to take note of it and adapt to it, which is what I'm making sure I do. Even before recording this video, I could have just waited until I got home to write down my feedback, but I was telling myself, no, write it down now while the car is warming up, and you'll be fine. And it also helps me think about what I need to talk about in the video itself. Another thing I noticed is that this 172 mic, he really likes to climb, he really likes to keep his nose up. I have to find myself pushing down so much on the yoke and using that nose down trim to keep the plane level after reaching our pattern altitude of 800 feet or low pattern altitude compared to a 1000 foot altitude. On top of the fact that it's a stronger engine, it really starts to make you get into the dance. You have to learn the dance for this aircraft. You have to learn the dance for every aircraft. Now, out of the 5 landings that I did today, 4 of them were assisted. However, that's to be expected. New plane, new tendencies to adapt to, and honestly, the fact that I was able to do one, it still puts a smile on my face today. On top of the fact that the winds were favoriting the northern runway, so we were doing right-hand turns today. So right-hand turns in this new plane for the first time, combined with that crosswind, made for a very special experience. However, no matter what could have been thrown at me today, it could have taken the smile off my face that I have right now, because it's good to be back in the plane. It's good to be back in the plane. There's no other way I could describe it. You just have to go without flying for a while, and then you'll be able to understand why I'm so ecstatic to finally be flying again. And I'm going to try and keep the ball rolling as much as possible leading up to instrument rating ground school, which should be sometime in May, which is pretty soon now that I think about it. However, if I can maintain just 1 flight a week, I feel like I'm going to be going in strong. On top of the fact that I am reading the material for ground school ahead of time, having this flight experience as well built up, I just want to have it ready to knock out as quickly as possible and as safely as possible. Other than that, there isn't really much else to say about today's flight. I want to thank you so much for watching. If you made it this far in the video, remember to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you want to learn more about being a pilot in Jamaica and about my journey. If you have any feedback or want to share anything with me, don't be afraid to leave a comment. And thank you again so much for watching this video. My name has been Robert Watson. Remember to always be improving, and I'll see you again very soon. God bless.
Yeah. I only tell you the truth. I ain't got nothing to lose. Yeah. I gave my life to to God and I'm still ballin'. Ain't nobody that can tell me I ain't all in. Late at night I hear the devil steady calling me. That's when I pray to the Father that He give me strength to fight these monsters.